Welcome to Healthy Aging, Enhancing Health Span with Plant-Forward Nutrition by the Educated Choices Program. Today, we will discuss the exciting link between healthy aging and plant-forward diets. Health span, defined as the period of life spent in good health, free from the chronic diseases and disabilities of aging. Globally, it is estimated that 1/3 of the adult population suffers from multiple chronic conditions. In the United States, nearly 95% of adults 60 and older have at least one chronic health condition, and nearly 80% have two or more. South America has a multimorbidity rate of 46%, and research in the UK suggests that the population suffering from 4 or more chronic diseases will nearly double by 2035. We know that many of the diseases people face at a high rate are, at least in part, related to lifestyle choices, including nutrition and diet. Many people around the world consume the Western diet, which we also call the standard American diet. This diet is defined as having a high intake of fat, refined carbohydrates, salt, sugar, and food additives, with low consumption of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Consuming the standard American or Western diet not only contributes to the prevalence of these diseases, but also makes managing them harder. Encourage small changes wherever possible. Like most habits, all or nothing thinking can bog us down and prevent change. The CDC recommends a thoughtful approach in which you reflect, replace, and reinforce to permanently improve eating habits. Every step towards educating and assisting seniors with incorporating more whole plant foods into their diets is a worthwhile step towards a fuller health span.